Hi, welcome back to Cheyenne Life. And this is going to be the third time that I've been trying to record a video for everybody, an update after the hailstorm from a couple of weeks ago. And this is the herb garden out next to our road. We put it out here because there's not a lot of traffic on our road, to be very honest. And this was about a 10 by 12 area for growing. And it's maybe actually a little bit larger than that now that I've worked with it some, because I think these are called spivia or something plants, are enormous in this, as you can see. And they do draw in a lot of bees. But I think that this year is going to be the last year for these because they just take up so much room. And they're not really beneficial for anything for us. So I'm going to go ahead and take them up at the end of the growing season, even though they're so pretty, just to get something more beneficial in here for us to grow. We have a group of lilies over here, which are red and are just about ready to bloom, and they are just full of blossoms that are ready to burst. And this one originally started out with only one stalk, and now it has 6. So we have 6 of about anywhere from 8 to 10 bloom pods on the top of every single one of them. So I look forward to that. Anyway, we have still been continuing to plant out here in the herb garden because it is the herb garden, and some herbs don't take very long to get ready. And we also have mixed planted some vegetables in here. I have another banana squash that had came up random that had not came up before in my seed cups, and I went ahead and planted it out here today, and we'll see if it does anything. We still have a little bit of some growing time, and they are not a long harvest plants, so I think they take about 70 to 80 days to come to harvest, which will still be time, we hope, for a harvest to come about for those. And then of course we have the decorative oregano out here, which is also we used to dry and season our food with, because we don't like the standard oregano. And this is when it starts getting really pretty, is when it starts to look like a willow tree. It kind of droops over like a willow, and then eventually the purple blossoms will come up, which they're kind of more of a pinkish purple with this variety. And it's a much more mild variety of oregano, and I personally like it better as a season versus the standard oregano. And then we have some, I think this is rosemary in the middle, and I could be wrong. It could actually be lavender, but I think it is rosemary, but just a different variety, which I cut and save and dry every single year. And then we have some acorn squash kind of tucked in behind the oregano. And then I have some Crenshaw melons that have just came up, and I don't know if they will have long enough to get ready, but at least we have something growing in there, and you can see them. There's 6 of them in there, and they had originally gotten killed out by the hailstorm, and they were much bigger plants then, so we had to replant those. That is my chamomile, and I did go ahead and plant some more chamomile seeds in here. They have not came up as yet, but they will. And there's a sunflower that kind of invaded in here all on its own, and I just left it to see if it'll do anything. I think it was from some decorative sunflowers that I planted last year, so it won't be very big. It'll probably be about 3 feet tall at the most, so it won't shade anything out. And then we have my lemon balm in here, which is just doing beautifully right there. It was originally a long section, but it ended up in a ball for some reason. And I did plant some gladiolas right here in the front, and I am just now beginning to see the stalks coming up. There you go. So those should be blooming sometime in late August, early September, and I look forward to that. I had also planted some petunias in here, and these are black petunias, even though they're just really, really dark purple. But they're just beautiful, and also some verbena there in the back. And then we've got the banana squash here in the front. There's 5 banana squash kind of tucked in here. They've got plenty of room to kind of spread out because they don't get super huge. And even if they do, they can just kind of wrap around everything. I'll just train the vines. We have a yellow columbine that kind of backs up against the purple plant here, and I think it's a spivia. I'm going to have to look and see. Again, I had looked it up once and found it at Walmart recently, and I just totally don't remember the name now. And I had also planted some trillium back behind this columbine, which I have not seen come up yet. Oh, wait, I do think I see a leaf that is coming up there. And then there again is the lilies and the acorn squash, which I just went ahead and amended the soil a little bit more around the acorn squash because they looked like they were struggling a little bit, and have added some more potting soil to the mix. All right, and I think since I last updated everybody, I had gotten this mandevilla. I had picked it up at clearance section, and I think it was $6.99, and the leaves were just terrible on it. They were just such a mess. It had went through the hailstorm as well at the store, and they had not moved it under cover, so it just had gotten beaten up really bad. So I went ahead and took it just by chance because I tried some last year, had a little bit of trouble with them, but this plant was much, much bigger. As you can see, a lot of vines. And I trimmed all of the nasty leaves off of it, and it had looked really terrible there for a little bit. And I just kept pulling off the dead ends and things like that, and now it is just looking gorgeous. So I'm looking for the possibility of having some blooms on this pretty soon. And I know the hummingbirds and things really enjoy those, so really looking forward to that. I have never had any hummingbirds here, so I would love to attract some in. And then of course I went ahead and planted some more of those petunias and verbena that I had picked up that also had went through the hailstorm, but they were not too damaged, but they did have them reduced price, and I went ahead and picked those up, planted those in, and they are just looking beautiful right there. These are my straight 8 cucumbers that I had mentioned in one of my last videos, and at that time they had just came up, so they were still little tiny babies, and now they're starting to get some of their other leaves and even some runners on them. And this is one of my Charlois cantaloupes, I think, or Charentois cantaloupes, and starting to get some extra leaves now and starting to get a runner. And then I went ahead and planted some Minnesota midget cantaloupes that I had found, and they're growing right here, and they should start taking off soon. I'm seeing a couple more leaves on one of them. And then these are the growing planters that we had gotten, just the stainless steel, and they have really started picking up with growth and everything now, and the tomatoes in them are doing just wonderfully. They were struggling there for a bit, I think, acclimating to how warm this planter gets, and now they have just started really taking off. And some more of the Charentois cantaloupes, and another of the Charentois cantaloupes, and then the other planter. And these tomatoes are beginning to take off, and as you can see, the one on the right was in really bad shape, and now it has really started picking up and growing. Spinach, thyme, I have a chocolate mint there in the back, and then my corn patch, which the peaches and cream corn that I had replaced the early sun glow with, is really coming on and flourishing now, so I'll probably be planting some beans around it very, very shortly, probably today, to get that started. And then we have some Klondike watermelons in here, and some crimson sweet, and some acorn squash here in the front, and then Tahitian squash over there in the front of the corn, and loads of the potatoes. The potatoes bounced back very well from the hailstorm. And I went ahead and picked up 2 of ever-bearing strawberries in a hanging basket, just in case that the other ones did not do anything, and we've already been getting strawberries off of these as well. And this tomato had almost died out, and now it has really started flourishing. I just put some bone meal on them today for more phosphorus and calcium and things like that. And there you can see one of my Klondike watermelons here. And some of my peppers, they had really gotten beaten up. There's only one left in this pot, and then there is one in this pot with a couple of eggplants. And then some more of my flowers. The other tomato that had gotten really beaten up and has now started coming back out of it. And this is the tomato that did not get any damage. And as you can see, the difference in the size. And then there's my giant ox hearts and also the artichokes. All of these are just flowering, did not get any damage because I think the hail just kind of bounced off of the house and kind of missed them. And then I had planted red curry squash all along in here. Red curry is a staple of ours every single year. And I had to replace all of them. So I went ahead and planted them in this section, taking out the bantam corn because it was just coming up so sparsely that I didn't feel like that it was worth my time and effort. So I scratched the bantam corn plant, took all of it out, and planted red curry instead. And then here's all of my dill. As I said, I always plant it in front of my beans and around this section. And all of it is doing wonderfully. Didn't have any damage from the hail because it was still sort of small at that point. And then that is the German Queen tomatoes that I have picked up to replace a couple that were damaged, and they're doing wonderfully. And then finally we have beans. All of my asparagus beans have came up, and all of my long Blue Lake long pole beans have came up. So I have asparagus beans across the front, and I didn't have enough to finish out the row. It was a little tiny package that only had I think 12 seeds in it, and 11 of them came up. So I finished it out with the Blue Lake pole. I've got 4 Blue Lake pole there, and then the rest in the back are all just Blue Lake pole. So I have that on a double trellis system, and I'm actually thinking about changing that around, having the trellises on either end and then stringing some twine in between just so they have extra room to run. And then here's all of my cucumbers that I had to replace, except for the one, which is now running and blooming. So I have white spine cucumbers in the back, tender green in the sides, and in the front is straight 8. And then more red curry squash along through here, which I had to replace all of them. And my 2 extra super sauce tomatoes are doing wonderfully. All of my super sauce tomatoes survived the hailstorm. They were really damaged, but they came back out. They're blooming right now and starting to bush out. And I also picked up a couple, actually 3 tomatillos, and my black creme tomatoes suffered really badly in the hailstorm. There's only 4 of them remaining, with this one right here in the middle doing the most, and the other 3 are just still kind of limping along. And then I had picked up 2 of the, I think these are called super beefsteak tomatoes. I picked up 2 of those, and they are doing wonderfully. They survived the hailstorm fine. And my Cocozelle squash survived the storm, but it was really damaged. It has came back out, so I'm hoping to get some Cocozelle squash on that. I've got some sunflowers in the back, onions, and my roses. And I think I'm going to have to make a part 2 of this video because it is running kind of long, so I will see you in a part 2. Unfortunately, my phone just makes me do parts like this. It only does up to about 15 minutes of video and then wants me to switch over to another video. So like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and there will be a part 2 of this video. This is part 1.